Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. So lovely for you all to join us this morning. My name's Jo. I'm the Director for Brand USA here in Australia and New Zealand. And we really hope you're all doing well. We're thinking of you, the travel agent community, as you navigate the excitement and sometimes the overwhelm that I'm sure you're all experiencing with our borders finally open. For all of us, it's so exciting that we can now actually work on something concrete. But of course, there's still many challenges in getting everybody traveling again. And we really sincerely hope to be as much help for you as we possibly can in providing the information you need as you need it, and by helping to generate positivity in the market with our public relations efforts. So I'd like to invite you at any time now or in the future, if there's anything that you feel like it would be helpful for us to do, please don't hesitate in contacting us and asking. We're here to try to make life as easy as we can for you, and it's tricky for everybody. So we're doing everything that we can, and we definitely welcome your guidance, your input, your requests. I'm really excited to be here today to be talking the USA to help you understand what tools we have and to take a deeper dive into the great state of Colorado. Also with a focus on helping you understand the requirements for traveling to the USA to ensure that you are the expert your clients need to get them there seamlessly. So just quickly, what you can expect from today, we'll start off with a quick overview of the different resources we have from Brand USA to help you. We have a guest appearance from our colleague Penny, who's just returned back from the USA. She was over in New Orleans and around in Louisiana and just got back on Sunday. So she can give you the full insider scoop on what it was like. We'll tell you a little bit about our road tripping itineraries that can help your clients explore the full depth and breadth of the United States. I'll then pass over the presenter baton to the wonderful Kylie Kay, the superstar who I'm sure many of you have met at past USA functions, but she's the local representative for Colorado and she can teach us a lot about that state. We'll have a little bit of time for Q&A, and then we'll finally wrap up with a quiz on the platform Kahoot. We've got a $200 Visa card gift card up for grabs, so you'll definitely want to be in the running for that. You might also like to have a pen handy so you can jot down some of the websites and resources that we reference throughout. And then finally, just letting you know that this is being recorded and we will upload it afterwards to our YouTube channel. So that if you want to refer back to it later or share it with a colleague, we'll send you out a link afterwards. So let's get started with some of our Brand USA resources. So the first tool really is the epicenter, or I guess the home for all of our other resources. It's the traveltrade.visittheusa.com.au website, and it's our first stop for all your USA inquiries. This is where you'll find inspiration, information. You can browse regional and themed itineraries, beginning in the gateway cities and then exploring beyond to discover both iconic landmarks and also loads and loads of hidden gems. The Travel Trade website features many tools like destination overviews, lots of different suggested itineraries, including road tripping guides. There's images and videos that you can use to enhance some of your itineraries or any of the docs that you're pulling together. Lots of frequently asked questions. And of course, at the moment, the things around COVID are vitally important. They're all housed here. And then we have click-throughs to all 50 states, 5 territories and District of Columbia to their official websites. So it's really great, starting point for anything that you need to know to help you to sell the USA. The other tool on this site is my favorite tool, and it's the Trip Planner. It's a really fantastic and flexible tool that enables you to generate your own bespoke day-by-day itinerary it's fully customizable. All you need to do is add in the locations. Let's see if I can get this happening here. Yes, I can play that behind the little squares. All you need to do is add in the locations that your clients would like to visit. So you can see here they've started in LA, going to Vegas, Memphis, Dallas, New Orleans, New York. You'll put in the start dates. We obviously created this video a little while ago. We should do a new one so it doesn't say 2019. You can also choose whether to go slow, fast-paced, any particular interests that the client has, you would have seen back there. And then you can see it literally maps out this itinerary for you. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful tool. It will show you as well, enable you to share that directly with the client, as you can see there. Fantastic. How do I get onto this next slide? Let's try it. Oh, no, we don't need to see that again. It's just in behind this little share device. So it's hard for me to get to. Here we go. Let's see if I can click in here. Beautiful. Our main education tool for you all, and hopefully many of you are members of the USA Discovery Program, is the USA Discovery Program. We have over 60 badges to complete. These cover many regions, states. We've got themed badges, like, for example, the US National Parks badge. The modules, we've created some, so they're short and sharp, so they're easy for you to do, but they'll help you with an overarching understanding of that particular topic and give you that confidence. After completing each badge, you actually receive a little downloadable icon. You can see it here, that you can include in your docs, and it just helps your clients to understand your expertise in that area. We are planning a big incentive for this in the first quarter of next year. So it would be great for you to register so that you receive information about the Discovery Program incentive that we'll hold. On the inspiration side, if you're sitting on the couch anytime soon and want some good entertainment, but also help you learn how to better sell the USA, check out Go USA TV. This is our own streaming channel, providing a home for all the Brand USA created content, like episodes, documentaries, films that together really tell a beautiful story of America. So it's an app, you can download it from the App Store, and it's also on streaming TV. Here's just a quick highlight of some of the awesome things you can see. So two of our favorites are past giant screen films that we've produced, America's National Parks and America's Musical Journey. But there's all sorts of other content. So here's one like Trails and Trailblazers, following trailblazers in science, history and exploration to unexpected places in America. And also something, of course, very topical is Black Voices, which celebrates the rich and diverse Black culture in the USA, like hearing from Spike Lee in New York City. Many of you are still working part-time or out of office hours, so we really encourage you to become part of our Travel Trade Facebook group. It just helps us to keep in touch with people who are working all sorts of crazy hours. So if you have your phone handy and you're not yet part of this group, just head to Facebook and search Brand USA Travel Trade New Zealand or Travel Trade Australia and request to join the group. And of course, we'd love to have you as part of our group. Then finally, there's one last platform for me to introduce you to. I know there's lots of platforms and I'm sorry, but there's, as you can imagine, the USA is so much information. So lots of different ways for you to access that. Over the course of the pandemic, where people haven't been able to physically connect as much, we've created this new platform called Brand USA's Global Marketplace. And it literally is like going to a trade show. So you can go and visit individual booths and you can gather brochure material and check it out into your own virtual briefcase that then when you leave the platform, you'll download and you'll have that all there. It's like having 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, access to booths at a trade show. So if you would like to register for this, just go to brandusaglobalmarketplace.com to register, and then from that point forth, you'll have access to all of that content. But perhaps one of the most useful things on the site right now is all the COVID protocols, and that lives on the site as well. But much more excitingly, we have beautiful Penny, who's just come back, and she is going to tell you all about her experience in making sure that you get from A to B without any challenges whatsoever. So Pen, take it away, girlfriend.
Hi, everybody. As Jo said, I'm Penny and I am account manager here at Gate 7. So I've looked into all the requirements of getting into the States and have just experienced it. So I'm just going to run through this with you so that you can be the expert that your client needs and make this process really as easy and as streamlined as possible. So first, you do need proof of full vaccination prior to boarding a flight to the United States. Accepted vaccines are the ones we have here in Australia and New Zealand. And individuals will be considered fully vaccinated at least 2 weeks after the last dose. Children under the age of 18 are exempt from vaccine requirements, and other limited exemptions applied. So you can download your Australian COVID vaccination certificate from the Medicare app. Now, New Zealand, I've read that yours is coming soon in the next month or two. So just print up a couple of copies of these so that you've got them with it in hard copy, just in case something happens with your phone and it's really easy to flash. Now, testing and results are also required for the USA. Just last week, they did change it to a 24-hour minimum. So this actually means that you will need to go to a private pathology clinic because free testing clinics don't provide the certification that you need. And that's what's required by the airlines and governments. Now, the cost is currently around $120 to $180 per test. So make sure your clients know that that's something that they need to fax it in. Now, if in the slight chance, being from Australia and New Zealand, that you have recently recovered from COVID-19, you can travel with documentation that you've had a recovery. So a proof that you've had COVID and also proof of a recovery. And they will counteract from your need to get all that other testing. Because as you may or may not know, if you do that testing, once you've had COVID, it'll always come up with some part. So just proof that you've had it and proof that you have got over it. And also don't forget your masks. They're required in all airports and also on the plane while we're there.
Pam, before I go on to the next slide, I've just had 2 agents messaging. So Tracy said she read reports that it was 1 day, not a 24-hour period. So you could get tested at 7 a.m. and not fly till 7 p.m. the next day. Is this correct? And then Karen has said testing 1 day prior to departure is fine. I understand it's not a strict 24 hours. Can you confirm that or?
So I think it's a 24 hours from the time your flight departs. So yes, you're right in that 7 from the day before. The day of. So anytime within that day. Yeah. And that was just the new one that they brought in last Friday in response to the Omnicom. But most of the airlines have got these fabulous sort of apps with travel ready segments in it. I just flew with United and their information on the back end was just amazing. So that's one good place you can update, because as we know, it's all changing so quickly. They are going to be your best bets. And with the US, what's interesting, it's all the onus is on the airline to get you over there. So if the airline's approved everything, then when you get to the States, it's pretty much
Great. I hope, Tracy and Karen, that answered your questions, but if it didn't, please make sure that you message again.
Yeah, and you can pop me in an email, penny@gate7.com.au, if you do have particular questions on those systems. So COVID insurance. Given the risks that are involved, COVID insurance is more important than ever. And we did a little bit of research on what was coming up there. No insurance will cover every possible risk, but what you want is obviously if you catch COVID before, if you catch COVID during, or if you catch COVID when you get home. So they're the things that are really worthwhile to having a look, and they will at least pay your quarantine or your cancellation and or medical expenses. So these are just a couple of companies that we've found that are doing it. Covermore, Southern Cross Travel Insurance, Go Insurance, Allianz, and NIB. So obviously working with your preferred supplier in that region, but they're the ones that I've found, and there may be more that are coming out as we speak. But that's worth it for your client, and I think that's one time that you can definitely get insurance across the line. And just on to the next one. Esther visas are still the main requirement for the majority of travellers from Australia and New Zealand to the USA. They cost $14 USD, and it's recommended that you apply 72 hours before your flight. Now, saying that, I did receive my visa in my inbox within 2 hours, so that was wonderful. But yes, please make sure that they do that 72 hours in advance. And please use the link I've got up the top there, esther.cbp.dhs.gov. Because there are a lot of those little dodgy companies that will help you apply for your visa and then charge you, $100 US when it's really only that 14. So that's just a tip to remind you of. And then once we've got all our visas, we've had an absolutely fabulous time in the US, there are a couple of things on the way home. And that is to download the ATD app. So that's the Australian Travel Declaration. Sorry, New Zealand, we don't have updates on you just yet, but I'm sure that they'll be coming through when your dates get a little bit closer. So this is really worth downloading before you go, because you do need to verify it a couple of times with your email, and there's nothing worse than the pressure from overseas. Where's it going? So download that, and then between 7 days and 72 hours, you have to enter the Australian Travel Declaration. Now, the other things that this does require, it will require a negative CPR test within 72 hours of departure, and then a test on day 1 when you arrive into Australia, a test on day 6, and also a recommended test on day 12. Now, as everybody does know, there is the 72 hours quarantine from the time you arrive into Australia, which is just brought in. But trust me, it's totally okay, because it's just like getting over jet lag in the comfort of your own home. So I do recommend that you, during that time from day 3 when you get out, to day 6 when you get tested, for the second time, that you don't go into any high risk events, which includes hospitals and nursing homes and big major events. So just to recap it all, proof of vaccination, which us in the travel industry are gonna, have that there ready to show. A negative test within 24 hours. Insurance with COVID protection, a mask for the flights and all the time that you're in those US government buildings, such as airports, an ESTA or your relevant visa to the US, and then for the way home, the Australian Travel Declaration. Much easier than it may feel with me saying it all to you. I just recommend print out a couple of copies of your vaccination and also your first test, and then you've got them on hand if you ever need it. But I've got to admit, it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. There was almost, no lines. Everybody was so welcoming and really, really pleased to have us Aussies and us Kiwis soon back to the USA. So that's all from me, guys. If you do have any questions, please email penny@gate7.com.au.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pen. And yes, thank you to Linda and Sue and everybody who's contributed. So I think rather than saying that 24 hours, it is just that it needs to be done that day before that test, that negative test. And as you rightly said there, Linda, the CDC website, which there is a link from the Brand USA Travel Tribe website where we're talking about the COVID requirements, that will link you through to the CDC, which is the Centre for Disease Control, which is where the official source of the latest intel from the US. So again, that visittheusa.com.au site, if you go there, there's links through to all those official websites to help you navigate it. And yeah, I know in sort of wrapping your heads around it, it's such a lot, but it was so nice for us to have Penny actually go and be our guinea pig. And really it was just wrapping her head around in advance what had to happen, but the actual experience of it was actually quite seamless and pleasant and unstressful. So I think that that's a nice vote of confidence for you to be able to share with your clients as well. What a crazy time we're all living through. We will all be telling our grandchildren about this one day. So the last resource, Brand USA resource I'd like to talk about is our self-drive itineraries. And I think, you know, there's a big trend in road tripping prior to the pandemic. I think that will continue on as people want to get out into those beautiful wide open spaces. And of course, the huge diversity that we have in the United States lends itself to road tripping. Hopefully many of you have seen the program that we've had with Carry On, promoting the road tripping options through the US all throughout the pandemic. We've continued with that, and it's been amongst their highest ranking content as well, which is lovely to see. But we have 38 self-drive itineraries, nicely designed. I'll flick you through one of those, which is the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains. So this is a 14-day itinerary, spectacular itinerary, taking you through soaring, beautiful mountain territory and taking in some of America's most iconic parks and monuments in this self-drive tour. So each of these self-drive tours, the documents that we've pulled together, they have maps with drive time. So you can see here that the route, it starts in Denver and there's a 2-hour drive time to Cannon City, then a 2.5-hour drive time onto Vail and so forth. It will then guide you sort of through a day by day of the itinerary, which of course makes sense, and give you some beautiful imagery along the way as well. So this particular itinerary ends in Colorado, which is a beautiful segue into an introduction to Kylie, who is going to take you over to the great state of Colorado. Now I just have to make you, Kylie, a presenter. Which is going to be a very interesting scenario because your picture's not here. Let's see if I can do that. Or alternatively, I can control this if that's okay for you.
Oh yeah, go for it. Whatever.
Right,
whatever. I'll
beautiful.
Do the next slide, Joe.
Yes.
Oh, we have another Kylie online with her name spelled correctly too. Yay.
Lovely.
Love it. Hi,
Always
Kylie.
good to see. Always
Indeed. Okay, well, thank you so much, first of all, Joe and Penny, for the opportunity to present to everybody online today, the great state of Colorado. As you say, my name is Kylie Kay, and I've been representing Colorado now for nearly 4 years. The last 18 months has definitely been interesting. I'm the CTO, or Colorado Tourism Office Account Director, and have a team working alongside me to ensure you get everything you need in terms of resources to promote and sell Colorado. So situated in America's central Midwest, as you can see in the top right of that pic there, it's kind of a perfect standalone destination, or sort of due to its positioning, it's the perfect state really to start or even end a multi-state itinerary. For those of you, and I'm sure many of you will have clients looking for that sort of wide open space, outdoorsy kind of destination for holidays in the future, Colorado has heaps and heaps of options, particularly for self-drive opportunities. We're obviously learning that clients want, you know, a holiday where they're not on top of each other so much in the hustle and bustle, and that they're looking for, you know, a dynamic destination that's full of adventure, and Colorado has all that, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But it's also calm and peaceful and grounded at the same time, loads of nature, loads of beauty and sophistication, as well as luxury. So Colorado's kind of got everything. A couple of facts to start with before we go on to the next slide, I think. Colorado has 4 national parks, which I'll go into, and also 8 historic railways, 8 national monuments, 26 scenic and historic byways, 30 hot springs, lots of numbers here, 41 state parks, 58 14ers, so mountains that are over 14,000 feet, which is high, 28 world-class ski areas, 1,500 ghost towns, and over 300 craft breweries.
Kylie?
I think Kylie looks like she's frozen.
Oh no. Oh dear.
Okay, so
Kylie's frozen. Oh, goodness.
All right, well, let's hope that Kylie is going to come back online soon.
I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment to see if that helped for any reason. I don't know why it would. Are you messaging her, Pen?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, hang in there.
Oh, she's left, so maybe she's coming back on in. There she is. There you are.
Oh my goodness, I don't know what happened then. Where did you lose me? I'm sorry.
We thought you were playing statues.
We
No,
we heard your beautiful list of all the highlights, the numbers, the breweries and everything, and then you just dropped out.
I'm so sorry, everybody. Yeah, I've had a couple of technical difficulties today. Hopefully, we're now resolved. Next slide, please, Joe. Let's start fresh. So Denver is Colorado's capital. It's the gateway also to the west. 300 days of sunshine, which and really easy city to navigate. Very walkable city, and very friendly city, and very easy, sort of safe city as well. Truly, I think it's one of the most special cities in all of America, with just its ease and the feeling that you have. Fun fact, did you know that Denver just got ranked the 3rd busiest airport in the world? I still can't quite get my head around that or why, but yeah, fun fact. And it's the hub for United Airlines. Next slide, please, Joe. Not far from Denver is Colorado Springs. It's about, depending on traffic, about an hour and a half drive south of Denver. It's Colorado's 2nd largest city, and it's home to Pikes Peak, as well as just outside of Colorado Springs. This image that you see there is called Gardens of the Gods, which is really spectacular, and that beautiful red rock that we in Australia so love. Pikes Peak has the Pikes Peak Cog Railway, which is, well, first of all, Pikes Peak is one of the over 14,000 feet mountains, and it has the Pikes Peak Cog Railway, which has been closed for an upgrade and just reopened in May this year. It's been climbing that Pikes Peak since 1891, and it's one of the most unique experiences and train rides in all of the USA. We love to boast that it's the world's highest cog railway, and it takes you right up to the very peak, which is at 14,115 feet. Yeah, it's quite spectacular. I don't know how many of you have actually been at the top of a 14,000 foot mountain, but it's just something else and not something that we see too much of in Australia. So yeah, get onto it. Something really new and exciting within Colorado Springs. They've got a brand new Olympic and Paralympic museum. That was only open this year as well. It's got iconic architecture, a museum and Hall of Fame, it opened in July this year. And it really embodies the values and history and experience of the Olympics and Paralympic Games. I'm going to cut that part short, but one of the things I think is really cool that they tailor the experience of going to that museum to every person that goes there. So no one person has the same experience when they go. You put in all your things that you like about the Olympics, and as you walk through, a lot of it is digitized, and so even you could do things like race Usain Bolt in a hologram type race. So there's some really cool stuff I think the kids and adults will love at that new museum. Next slide, please, Joe. Now, Fort Collins is such a quaint little town. I really love Fort Collins. It's about an hour north of Denver, and it looks like Disneyland. In fact, Main Street USA in Disneyland was modeled after downtown Fort Collins, and it just feels like that. Super fun and the happiest place on earth, or second. It's the 4th largest Coloradoan city, and it offers restaurants and nightlife and art and heaps of cool shopping. Super flat, so you can walk or ride, as you see in that picture. And it's completely surrounded by nature. So you only need sort of 10 minutes out of the city and you're in a whole whole bunch of hiking and kayaking and all sorts of cool things that Colorado is really well known for. It's also known as Capital's craft beer capital. It's got 70% of the craft beer that is produced in the state of Colorado, and a lot of it's produced in Colorado, comes from Fort Collins. There's over 20 microbreweries, and each of them have their own kind of distinct style. Also, if you like music like I do, there's lots of live music venues, and heaps of festivals. I think there's over 280 cool festivals in Fort Collins each year, so something pretty cool. Next slide, please, Joe. I did mention before at the beginning, I hope you heard it, we do have 4 national parks, all spectacular and very unique in their own way. No matter what your interests are, I think you'll find things to take away from each of them. At every park, there's obviously trails and hikes with varying distances and degrees of difficulty, and tons of wildlife, of course, as well. Next slide, please, Joe. So just northwest of Denver, between Estes and Grand Lake, and spanning the whole continental divide, you'll find one of the largest national parks in all of the United States, the Rocky Mountain National Park. It's over 1,000 square meters, and it's one of the highest national parks. In fact, I'm just looking at the stats, national park, up to 4,300 meters. And has huge high mountain lakes and streams as well as all those things that are iconic to the Rockies that we know so well in this market. All year activities, including camping and hiking. I mean, there's even things like cliff camping. I don't know if you've seen that before, but it's bizarre and no thanks, but it is for some. Home to hundreds and thousands, in fact, animals, moose, elk, deer, sheep, cougars, bears, the list goes on. Also, Rocky Mountain National Park is connected from end to end, and I love this particular piece of information because I ride motorbikes, by US Highway 34, which is known as the Highway to the Sky. And it's the highest continual highway in all of the United States. So that's pretty cool and cold when you're riding a motorbike to feel like you're just literally on top of the world. Again, this is the closest national park to Denver. And for those with limited time for a stopover in Denver, this is the one you can get to really quickly, and it's absolutely spectacular. Next slide, please, Joe. The next national park is the Black Canyon and the Gundersen National Park. It has these steep, sort of sheer, dramatic scenes. We call it the Grand Canyon of Colorado, but that's kind of funny. But it's full of granite, and the canyons are so deep and narrow that it's just very dark, and no trees can grow in there. But it's just something quite different and quite spectacular. Joe, next slide, please. Mesa Verde National Park is one of the richest archaeological zones in all of America. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it just happens to be hidden amongst some of the grandest scenery in the Southwest, in that Four Corners area. It's west of Durango, if anyone knows where that is, and there's 4,000 archaeological sites there, 600 of which are cliff dwellings, just as the one you see in this picture here, where the ancestral Puebloans called home for around 700 years. They built these sort of travel communities on the mesas and on the cliffs at Mesa Verde. And today the park really protects that kind of rich cultural history. Oh, also Mesa Verde has just been certified as the world's 100th international dark sky park, which is super cool. And and having been there 2 years ago, I can see why you go, it's super silent and super, amazing and expansive. So that's one I really encourage people. It's a lesser known one, but it's just absolutely spectacular. Next slide, please, Joe. Nowhere in the States do mountains of sand stand higher than the Rocky Mountains, in the Rocky Mountains, than the Great Sand Dunes National Park. The tallest dune is 230 meters high. This is just a crazy cool national park. It's near Alamosa, and many of you won't know what that is, but it's you can do sand surfing, you can do horse riding around on these dunes, but it's just this, like, you're driving along, you've got these sort of iconic green mountains of Colorado, and then you turn a corner and there's this big clump of sand, and it's like crazy, weird, and amazing all at once, and really spectacular. Take your breath away. Next slide, please, Jo. I'm going to just skip through these. Colorado is obviously really well known for the outdoors and adventure. Mountain biking and ziplining is huge in Colorado. Next slide. Obviously, again, adventure stuff, kayaking. The Colorado River is very famous for that. There's all sorts of waterfalls and springs. We'll get to that soon. Next slide. For those of you who saw the movie back in the, I guess, 80s or maybe early 90s, City Slickers, there's a bunch of dude ranches throughout Colorado, and there's actually some that are year round. So you can actually do them either in winter or in summer. Most of them are summer. There's all sorts of different packages. There's, all inclusive. You turn up, pay for nothing when you're there, down to, pay for your accommodation and everything else on top of that. I've got some information at the end that will hopefully guide you through that. But yeah, that's something that we're finding a little bit more interest in. Not as much as we would like, but I think definitely something very different. Next slide, please, Jo. I'm going to skip this slide. Gondolas and hot air ballooning, again, just a story around the adventure. Because of my screen, I can't exactly see what's on top. Train journeys. We're going to come to that, actually. We'll go to the next slide, Jo. I've got some, obviously you would have all heard that we've now got Rocky Mountaineer, and that's something that I'll touch on a little bit more. The Durango to Silverton train is spectacular. We've gone past it, but that's okay. Durango to Silverton, it's absolutely fine. I was going to say, that's one that I really love. And again, I guess it's because I rode a motorbike, and in Silverton, it's the highest Harley-Davidson store in all of the world. So there's something to take that train up for sure. But towards sort of the Durango area, you'll find the southwest of Colorado, you'll find Durango, and the railroad there, it's a coal-fired steam-powered locomotive. It runs 200 feet above the river. It features, magnificent peaks, passes through canyons. Honestly, I've done the Rocky Mountaineer in Canada, and I can say some of the scenery on the Durango Silverton is equally, if not better, that's controversial, than that particular train ride. So next slide, please, Jo. And there's 8 historic trains, and I won't go into each of these, but we've got a whole list of resources for your clients that love train journeys. And they've all got their own, marvelous stories to tell. One interesting point, the Durango Silverton train also once a year turns into the Polar Express, and they do it for the kids, and there's something really cool there. So if that's of something interest to any of you in the next 3 weeks to get over there for the Polar Express, let me know. Next slide, please, Jo. Thank you. As I mentioned before, the new Rocky Mountaineer train ride. This is exciting, and we like to position it that this is the best new product in all of America. And the Rocky Mountaineer really, is so well known to the Australian and New Zealand marketplace. It's so well sold over 10, 15 years. And now we're proud that we've got a Denver to Moab and Moab to Denver route that we can include some pre or post ride stays with for Colorado. It's a 2-day journey. I'll get into a little bit more of that. Next slide, please, Jo.
I think there's some raised hands, Kylie. I'm wondering, I can't see it, but are there any questions there? Were there some questions there? We can circle back to them at the end, perhaps.
Okay, no problem. Hot springs, yes. So Colorado is home to 30 hot springs, actually. And it's timing. That's the problem. Okay, I would have stopped that. But 30 hot springs, really easy to get to. There's a loop trail that I'll talk about. I'm not sure why it's timing through. The first one we'll talk about is Steamboat Springs. It's got like a Western vibe here, so you can kind of channel your inner cowboy, if you like. Downtown, we have the old town hot springs. There's sort of water slides and a climbing wall and, adult only spring areas as well, with a wilderness setting, which is absolutely beautiful. And the resort there has a blend of like nature and stone masonry, and it's just a beautiful setting for sort of a wellness type itinerary, I guess. Next slide, please, Jo.
Beautiful.
Glenwood Springs. Now, this is your halfway point on the Rocky Mountaineer Trail, actually, on the 2-day Rocky Mountaineer, Denver to Moab or Moab to Denver. You stop in Glenwood Springs, and Glenwood Springs boasts the largest spring in the world. In America. I'm not sure about the world. Let's say the world, but no, it is America. There's so much to do there. There's all these cool caves. There's an adventure park in Glenwood Springs that you have to catch a cable car up to, and it's got some like really scary rides that hang over cliffs and all sorts of things. But the real draw card is that the largest spring in all of Colorado and in fact North America. Next slide, please, Jo. Again, I have mentioned I ride a bike, haven't I? Ouray is amazing. Hot springs there. It's also very close to the $1 Million Highway, which for those of you that know, driving, it's probably one of the best bike riding highways in all of America. Lots of turns, cool scenery. But back to Ouray in terms of its springs. It's got a 90-year-old hot spring. Here, the thermal springs are actually sulfur free, so they don't have a smell, unlike some of the others. And they've also got like in-pool seating, water slides, lap lanes, and all sorts of things. So really popular for that area for those that like hiking, biking, and all of those ice park type things. Lots of winter stuff to do in Ouray, but it's also a really quaint little town that does some pretty cool little festivals as well. Next slide, please, Jo. And then we've got Pagosa Springs. Yes. So you go past the San Juan Highway, which will link Ouray and Pagosa Springs, and on the $1 Million Highway, which I've mentioned, and you get to Pagosa Springs. It's the world's deepest geothermal hot spring, and it supplies three hot springs. It supplies the town's 3 hot springs resorts. That's right. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, iron, you name it. And I did mention to Jo prior to this some interesting stories about some of the spring towns in Colorado that have spring water taps available to the public, and they're rich in minerals, and your body will either like the taste of it or reject it if you've already got enough of that particular mineral in your system. Next slide, please, Jo. This slide, actually, I'm going to skip past. I'm not supposed to have this slide in here. I don't know how it's stuck in there. What's new in Colorado? So again, I've mentioned the Pikes Peak Cogway has reopened. The US Olympic and Paralympic Museum has opened, and the Rocky Mountaineer, Rockies to the Red Rock. And I guess there's a whole range of things coming up. You'll see that particular route being promoted in through various channels over the coming 2 months in particular. So really keen to get everybody on board that 2-day ride. Next slide, please, Jo. And of course, everybody knows that Colorado is home to 28 ski areas and world-class ski areas. So most will have heard of, if not been to, Aspen, Telluride, Crested Butte, and Steam, many, many more, Winter Park, et cetera, et cetera. So still very well known for that. Australia is actually the highest international market for the Colorado ski areas. So they can't wait to have us back, and hopefully this winter. Next slide, please.
I think, is it a video that you'd like me to play, Kylie?
Yes, I think there was a video there. the appetite a little bit for some of the cool stuff that you can do in Colorado. Is there any more slides there, Joe? Yeah. So we've got the Epic Pass and the Icon Pass, which I'm sure you've all heard about, which are available through most of the ski specialists for any of those resorts that you see on screen now. Next slide. Again, what's new this ski season? That's something that I won't go through each of these, but each of the resorts listed there have something new to provide, and hopefully we can send this. Copper Mountain certainly has new adventure zones. I won't go through more, but there's a lot going on, and I'd love to hear from each of you if you're interested in sending your clients over for this particular skiing season. We've got a bunch of short itineraries that we will share. You can find them on our website, and I'll share that at the end. Some short itineraries of 3 days. We've got long itineraries for loops, etc. 14-day road trip itineraries, as you see on this next one. Thank you, Joe. I'm like trying to hit the button. No, next one, Joe. And these are our Colorado resources. So if you do have pen and paper, I would urge you to take down at the bottom of the screen the Colorado Resources website, which will showcase to you information sheets, the holiday guides, and a whole bunch of suggested itineraries based on themes or what your clients are after, whether it be self-drive or ski or anything else. Next slide, please, Joe. This is just an example of some of the itineraries, resources that were in that previous link. Next slide. And more. So we're not afraid to also promote multi-state itineraries on that site, because we know that Colorado may not be your one destination that you go to, and people are going to be rushing back to America and they're going to want to see heaps of different things. So there's a bunch of suggestions for multi-state, including, of course, the Rocky Mountaineer, which is multi-state between Utah and Colorado. Again, Joe and Penny, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. Really appreciate all the work that you put in to make that happen, and certainly am available for any questions or anything hereafter.
Fantastic. Kylie, thank you so much, and thank you for putting up with me having to forward your slides.